If there was only a way to test this, check this. Listen to the 40 for your next shit. Flexes, FF is what they obsess with. Checklist complete, I guess you can't best us.
We are back. Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy 40 podcast. Today we are looking at the AFC West in our Divisional Breakdown series. Myself, John DeBari, my co-host Matt Walker, and we are still missing Andrew Burke. We're the Fantasy two-thirds. But anyway, looking at the AFC West, we recently looked at the AFC East, which was a huge disappointment. I think we got a little more to look forward today. Breaking down these AFC West teams. How are you, Walk? What did you think of the West when you broke it down?
Two things. One, Andrew Berg needs to change his Twitter handle to like the FF Bigfoot or the FF Yeti.
Oh, that's good.
Some sort of mythical creature that we're truly not sure exists, but people say they've seen them from time to time. So give us some serious thought, Berg, because FF producer, I really know that that qualifies anymore. So just some food for thought. And two, we're recording this on June 24th. This will not come out for another week, just to let everyone know. So if anything here is stale, someone gets arrested, traumatic injury, or some terrible shit, we're doing this one a little early because we're taking next week off. So just want to give everyone the disclaimer on that. Now, we talked about the East earlier, pulling back the curtains. We were bored as shit. AFC West, I am excited to talk about the AFC West. There are some fireworks in this division. Everyone's trying to keep up with the Joneses as far as the Kansas City Chiefs are concerned, making some hair-trigger decisions. I'm looking at you, Mike Mayock, and John Gruden, and I can't wait to talk about this. Top to bottom, I'm literally excited to talk about all four of these teams.
Well, let's jump in with who's first. You screwed me up with the alphabet last time. It's teams.
Always the
Broncos?
Team.
Broncos first? That's a B?
Yes, that's
I don't
B.
think there's any teams that start with an A, so I guess Broncos will be first. The Broncos actually made some significant splashes on the offensive side of the ball. So went with lots of people's wide receiver one in this class, Jerry Jeudy in the first, came back wide receiver again, KJ Hamler in the second, going down the list, Albert O, an athletic freak at tight end in the fourth. Then they grabbed another wide receiver who I didn't even know that this had happened until we did this, Tyree Cleveland, another wide receiver in the seventh. They also drafted some offensive line help. But that is neither here nor there. Anything you wanted to add about what they did in the draft or free agency?
No, other than the fact that if you have not already gone onto your dynasty roster and done so, you can easily go and just drop Deshaun Hamilton. Just right into the ether. Like, don't even add someone. Just go and drop him and then figure out who you're going to add later because Deshaun Hamilton,
hurtful.
He's not going elsewhere and going to make it happen. Don't know why, but dude had every chance to not make them draft three wide receivers and a tight end in this draft, and he took none of it. So, just an interesting offensive-heavy draft for John Elway. Looks like he's going all in. I've heard on some other podcasts, I think it was Nate Liss on the Breakout Finder, that he was talking about John Elway creating a veteran destination for a quarterback, that he doesn't know that he believes Drew Lock is the answer. And if he is not, that this could be a truly appealing kind of Philip Rivers-y type destination, like a veteran type guy. Maybe not Rivers specifically, but Rivers wanted to go to the Colts because of Reich and everything else. Aaron Rodgers, perhaps, in a trade. Who knows? Since they drafted Jordan Love, there's going to be options.
Just to stick with that, because I had not heard that before, and I kind of like where you're going. We'll burn a little time here, unfortunately, but who are the next tier of quarterbacks that are going to be looking for a new job to ride out the sunset? Roethlisberger?
Don't know where his deal sits. I haven't done the homework. I can tell you Andy Dalton's on a one-year deal, and they might think that he's a guy that could be an upgrade from Locke a year from now. Derek Carr, who neither is believing, who we'll talk about later in this, I think is easily cuttable from the Vegas Raiders next year. If there is any type of transition to Mariota as minimal dead money, he wouldn't be dead in the water. He could free that type up. Jameis Winston's on a one-year deal. Who knows if he rehabs his image with the Saints? Who knows if Breeze only plays for one more year and it really is kind of Winston 2021 with the Saints? There's going to be some names out there. For fuck's sake, Cam Newton's still a free agent in the NFL. I mean, currently, could go sign and should inevitably be the starter in Denver if he did end up signing it, which I do not believe he will do. But I think this is, hey, Locke, we're giving you every toy possible. We're removing removing all excuses. Fangio's still going to have a good defense, putting all these offensive playmakers around Drew Lock, even going as far as adding Melvin Gordon and overpaying him, in our humble opinion. But they got depth everywhere. Wide receiver, tight end, running back. They can just keep rolling people out. It's pretty impressive what they got.
Well, you just mentioned all the weapons they have and all that. I'll go right into our breakout. For me, it's Drew Lock. You can't, we say this every year. There's a team or two every season where we go, all right, well, we love all his wide receivers. We like his running backs. We like everything they have on offense. But then the quarterback's ADP seems to be lagging, or people just don't like the guy. So for me, everyone's talking about what they've done on offense, all the weapons, this, that, the other. Drew Lock's still QB 16. How can you like everything they've done and the quarterback doesn't come with them? So for me, I don't see how Lock either breaks out or falls off the face of the earth. So for me, Drew Lock has to break out, because if we love everyone else and expect all these other guys to live up to their ADP and perform, they can only do that if Lock has a good year. So for me, he's my breakout. I don't necessarily love him. I'm not anti-Lock. I'm not pro-Lock, but I'm also not stupid. They surrounded him with weapons. They obviously want him to perform. I think he blows by that QB 16 if everyone else's predictions are correct.
Listen, I'm very pro-Lock. I mean, what's the best lock? Everlast Lock? What's the best lock? Life
Master.
Master Lock. There we go. He's a master lock, in my opinion, but that doesn't mean that anything as far as, redraft and dynasty are concerned. He's redraft quarterback 15, so he's lingering in that second tier if you kind of punt on quarterback that you draft two guys. He's in the same ballpark as Big Ben, who you mentioned, Daniel Jones, Joe Burrow. Take two of those guys and see who pans out. I agree with you. He has significant offensive weaponry. That's assuming that Judy and Hamler acclimate pretty seamlessly, because there's not a lot behind Cortland Sutton. Now that the aforementioned Sean Hamilton's on a milk carton, I don't even know who else they have. There's some no-name guys, Tim something, Patrick, and someone else there. Fant's there. I'm not going to expect anything from Alberto his rookie year, but he was Drew Lock's boy at Mizzou. And when Alberto was lighting it up his freshman year, Lock was the one throwing him football. So never know where that's going to go. But I think I see Lock very much in the same vein as Gardner Minshew, even though there's different draft capital, is that this is a defining year for both of these players. If they're not the reason why the team is successful or that they see growth, they could both get replaced a year from now. And that's unfortunate, because I think these guys, if they were given a leash, it could be interesting to see what both of them can do. I like Drew Lock. I like the way he plays, and I want him on the NFL field.
Yeah, I don't. Like I said, I'm all aboard. If everything else if everything else is true, then he's got to be true too. Moving on to our favorite part, the busts. This would not be.
I didn't tell my breakout.
Oh shit! I thought you picked him too. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just. Like that you spoke
ranting and raving. Got it.
Yeah, I like Lock. I actually didn't pick Lock for anything here because I truly don't know where to put him. I went with Noah Fant. Second year, we saw some glimpses from this guy, 14.1 yards per reception. Just 66 targets his rookie year. I expect that to go up. Mike Clay has him at 80 targets. If he gets there, and you just keep that kind of same 66% catch rate, his yards per reception, his TD rate and all. I'm just going to do a quick ballparking here of 14 more. He's going to get into the 50-ish reception club, 700 yards and probably 5-6 touchdowns. You tell me he has 700 yards and 6 touchdowns, he's a tight end one. So I see it with him. There's no one else. Alberto isn't threatening him this year. I think Alberto could if he keeps his shit together, long term. But Fant's going to benefit from all those wide receivers as well. Hamler's stretching the field, Sutton's stretching the field. Judy is just breaking people's ankles, with his route running. And Fant is just a size speed freak, 6'4", 250 pounds that – he's going to have a couple of those 60-yard touchdown catches, in my opinion, in 2020. So I know Fant is going to break out. Not think he is going to break out.
Bum bum bum. So you'll understand immediately why I tried to jump over you and get to my bust as quickly as possible, because it would not be a Fantasy 40 episode if we could not take a shot at our boy Melvin Gordon, currently 60th overall. We are a strong anti-Melvin Gordon podcast. I just don't. I didn't like him in San Diego, LA, wherever they are. I don't like him in Denver. And he's got more competition here, arguably. Lindsey's got an established role. They've wasted some decent draft capital on Royce Freeman. Sounds like he's going to be the odd man out. But you're never going to get me to draft Melvin Gordon. I don't care what his ADP is. 60, so what's that, the end of the 5th round? It's probably a fair value, but no thank you. That guy will let you down, as always.
Perfectly said. No, the redraft spin is Melvin Gordon is currently running back 17, being taken at the 305, ahead of the likes of your boy David Johnson, the guy we hate, James Conner, who knows Chris Carson, guaranteed volume Le'Veon Bell, rookie upside Jonathan Taylor, guaranteed volume David Montgomery. All names after him. There's not one that I don't think I would take over Melvin Gordon. He's projected out per Mike Clay as running back 20. And I just don't see it with him. You mentioned Philip Lindsay, and I went as far as to say that Philip Lindsay is the best competitions he's had for rushing down work in his career. I'm not insulting Austin Eckler in any capacity, but Austin Eckler is not a good running back. He's a good receiving back, and it's bared out over Eckler's career thus far. But what Philip Lindsay has been good at doing is running the football. He's just not good at catching the football. So Gordon will probably have more passing down work than I would care to see. But I'm there with you. I want nothing to do with Melvin Gordon. It's a 2-year deal. He had a best-case scenario with the Chargers and Phillip Rivers. And that doesn't exist anymore with a young quarterback, an average O-line, and better competition in the backfield. And I don't have numbers right in front of me, but Mike Clay had their rushing touches almost perfectly split down the middle, like 180 each. And he had Philip Lindsay doing more with the rushing work. The way that Melvin Gordon won is receiving. So if you want to trust that Drew Lock is going to use Melvin Gordon even close to what Phillip Rivers did, the past few years, go ahead.
Good luck to you.
Yeah, good day, sir.
Who's your bust, Tim?
I am Melvin Gordon.
I
like that you asked that after you thought I already gave my breakout, but you knew who it was.
Might be the least surprising answer in the history of the show.
Yeah, we probably should have just put insert name here and moved on.
It was no matter where he went, he was going to make it on this list there. Moving on to sleepers. You've taken several shots at him already. I got to go Deshaun Hamilton. There's just 2 reasons. 1, I like him, but 2, there's really nobody else here that's being drafted late enough to fall into this category. He's currently entirely undrafted in dynasty startups. I think there's a strong reason. I mean, look, Sutton and you mentioned it, they pounded wide receiver in the draft also, so he is buried. This is year 3, if I'm not mistaken. So this is usually when these guys kind of take that next step. So it is now or never. He's literally as free can be. He's not even being drafted in 20-round startups. So he costs you absolutely nothing. You could do a lot worse in round 21, 22 than Hamilton because he is a good route runner. What the problem's been at the NFL level so far, I don't know. But it's not like Judy should come in and is going to be a starter opposite Sutton. Hamler to me is, I don't want to say one-trick pony because I think he's pretty good, but he's going to be a speed, deep threat guy. I don't think he's going to see a ton of playing time. So I think there still will be an opportunity for Hamilton to finally get in there and do something. The odds are stacked against him, but to me, based on the price, he's an easy grab for me as my sleeper.
You're wrong, though. Deshaun Hamilton, 30 out of 32 games in 2 years. He has found his way into receiving a robust 97 targets over those 30 games, corralled 58 of them for a sub 60% catch rate for 9.3 yards per reception. And a total of 3 touchdowns. He's going in the wrong direction. I mean, he had less receptions and touchdowns his second year than his rookie year, even though he played 2 more games. They don't trust him. They don't want him on the field. They made a clear decision to replace him in the draft. And I get where you're trying to go with it, but even as the 3rd option, probably 4th, because we're talking 5th. Man, Fance the 3rd, and then one of those running backs, probably Melvin Gordon's the 4th. So, Deshaun Hamilton is the 5th option in this passing offense that isn't going to be able to support it. So I reluctantly, vehemently disagree with you on that one. He cannot be a sleeper for the Broncos, but KJ Hamler can, because he is anything but a one-trick pony. He is electric. He is the new NFL. He's not going to be a volume guy. He's not going to be a wide receiver one. He's a dreamy best ball type guy. And he's a guy that if this offense progresses, he can be a 60, 70 target guy with some week winning upside because he has the 50-plus touchdown upside, even on just a quick slant or a bubble screen and the like. I hate that he landed in Denver because he's going to be hurting for targets. Probably not a worse place, in my opinion, with Sutton already entrenched as the alpha, and then they go and get Judy, who's just going to command volume, just with his refined route running and the like. So I hated seeing Hamler land here, but talk about a sleeper. And if one of those receivers gets hurt, wheels up. KJ Hamler is going to destroy the NFL.
Ooh, I did not know you were such a big Hamler fan.
I'm getting there. If he participated in the combine, a lot more people would be there with me. But even without them doing it, the Broncos still saw fit to use a second-round pick on him. And with the beginning of this episode, we talked about how everyone's trying to keep up with the Chiefs. Hey, Chiefs getting Mecole Hardman when no one thought they were going to draft Mecole Hardman a year ago in the second round, even though I loved him the entire time. You sons of bitches. Keeping him away from me because he got drafted to the perfect situation where I couldn't reach for him. But teams are trying, it's a copycat league, and KJ Hamler is that speed element that the Denver Broncos lacked.
You are a Penn State wide receiver guy. I'm slowly noticing.
Listen, I just shit all over Deshaun Hamilton. So, every college has its ugly duckling, apparently.
Allen Robinson, your boy Godwin, now Hamler.
Yeah.
You've got a type.
Hey,
all
listen,
right. So,
and rightfully so thus far, Jonathan.
I'm still not there on Robinson. But moving on to our predictions for this team. Again, I'm going bold predictions. I think Drew Lock finishes as a top 12 quarterback this year. QB1.
My first prediction, Deshaun Hamilton is cut before the start of the regular season. And that Melvin Gordon finishes outside the top 24 running backs in PPR.
Oh, I love and hate for me, back and forth. So next team up, if my ability to do the alphabet is correct, is the Los Angeles Chargers.
You're doing a masterful job with the alphabet today, John.
Outstanding.
And those Chargers went and drafted Justin Herbert, Joshua Kelly at running back, Joe Reed, a personal favorite of mine, at wide receiver. Didn't do much on the offensive side, I don't think at all, in free agency. They bolstered their offensive line a little bit. They went and got Balaga, and they traded for Russell Okung, I believe. I think pretty sure that was the move they made. But they had issues on that offensive line last year, and they tried to fix it. I still think they did that largely to try and entice Tom Brady to go there. But now it's Tyrod Taylor and ultimately Justin Herbert to get the benefit from those changes. Anyone else draft or free agency that I didn't mention?
KJ Hill.
No, I said anyone else that I didn't mention. Dude sucks. Move on.
Hurtful.
Yeah, shots fired, man. Just because he went to Ohio State doesn't make him good.
Okay. Take that. So who do you like to break out here?
Well, it's one of the aforementioned players above, and it is Joshua Kelly. I think, and no disrespect to Justin Jackson, and while he was pretty productive on a per-touch basis last year, they went and sunk some significant capital into Joshua Kelly. He is, in my opinion, the prototype lead running back in this offense. I mean, in Eckler's best-case scenario, he was not the lead back in this offense. It was always Melvin Gordon. Eckler was very specialized and maximized in his role, and I believe that's what they want to get back to because he's just not effective when they try and burden him with the load. I think stats may be able to prove elsewise, but on a per-touch basis, Eckler's efficiency was compromised when they tried to make him the alpha. Joshua Kelly has alpha-back traits, in my opinion, when Justin Jackson doesn't. And Justin Jackson, I believe, 7th-round pick out of Northwestern with a shit ton of carries on his resume, stayed there through his senior year. He's just not long-term for them. He was a good third running back, break glass case emergency second back when they needed him to be. Joshua Kelly is going to be the primary ball carrier for this team sooner rather than later, and I ultimately believe he's going to lead them in rushes in 2020.
I like it. As a fence-riding coward, I wrote Justin Kelly I wrote Justin Jackson / Joshua Kelly. I think you're right. It's going to be one of them. I think Kelly does profile better as a decent NFL back than Jackson does. I think Jackson's going to get the first crack at it. I don't think he stinks, so I think he's going to get a chance. If I had to pick, I would go Jackson. Obviously, for dynasty long term, like I said, Kelly's got the much better profile, and he could be a lead back. Jackson would just be a guy. But I think for this year, I like Jackson. Long term, Kelly. But I like both of them. I think you are on the right path, and I'm in the same boat with you.
I just picture you in chaps with a cowboy hat and a little pop gun, just riding the Charger fence with Joshua Kelly on one side, Justin Jackson on the other. You don't know which way to go. Listen, go on Player Profiler and go look up Joshua Kelly. Short of his burst score, there's nothing.
You're right.
Go look at his tape. Go look at Joshua Kelly. You know, it's just the dude is still not discussed near enough, and he landed in a great situation, in my opinion, where they're looking for a guy to be the primary running downs back. So I think we're both there. Let's just call it. We're Team Joshua Kelly here. Sorry, okay. Justin Jackson. I'm on one side.
Yeah, I'm not convinced enough. That's all it took to convince me. Let's just say you're Team Josh Kelly. I went, all right.
I lassoed you onto the Joshua Kelly side.
Didn't take much
to pick a side. So breakout Joshua Kelly. Bust. Not going to like this. I went with Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler set his career 10.6 yards per reception, speaks to his ability, but I wonder how much of that was Rivers. He's currently going as RB12 at 2.04 in PPR drafts. I get it 100%. I understand it. I am not taking Austin Eckler at the beginning of the second round in a redraft. I mean, if I took a running back in round one, I'm not taking Austin Eckler in round two. If I took a wide receiver in round one, I don't feel comfortable with Eckler as my kind of bell cow running back in round two. I am scared to death of Austin Eckler in 2020. And I think the kid's super talented. He got paid. Good for him. You know, made a name for himself out of Western State, carved out a role, super productive. You know, love Austin Eckler. I think times they are a-changing for the Chargers. And even if Rivers is only responsible for 25% of what Austin Eckler was, that is a required 25% for him to just be the obvious end of a RB1 tier. So, sorry, to me, he's going to bust. He's running back 2
no.
in leagues.
And you know, my thing with a lot of these is looking at their ADP. As you're well aware, I was on Eckler before the NFL draft. I thought he stood out in a stacked 2017 running back class. He went undrafted. I loved him even more because I was able to get him everywhere dirt cheap, and he has rewarded me as a, you know, late round rookie pick, free agent pickup, a guy who was able to get everywhere. Do I love him at 30th overall in a startup? Boy, that's a hard pill to swallow. So I don't fault anybody who doesn't want to take him at his current price. For me, I went to quarterback. You had mentioned Eckler possibly busting without Phillip Rivers being there. I don't know what to expect from Tyrod or Herbert. I think this whole team kind of takes a step back with them there instead of Rivers. So for me, they're both a bust to me. As a result, Keenan Allen probably takes the biggest dump on the field. Currently wide receiver 21, which is fair. But a lot of that was not that he's not talented, but Rivers did pepper him with the ball quite a bit. So 21, getting balls from Tyrod, and who knows what Herbert's going to be. Herbert's biggest problem is downfield accuracy. So Keenan Allen is probably going to get dragged down with the Herbert-Tyrod busting too. So for me, it's kind of a bust trifecta.
That hurts and I know why you're going there with it, which is Keenan Allen owner in a lot of places. Again, it's going to be interesting to see how much of this was Phillip Rivers, at the end of the day. And, I just pulled up Austin Eckler's stats as you were talking. I just wanted to say his rushes has increased year over year in his 3 years. His yards per attempt have decreased year over year. His receptions increased year over year, and his yards per reception increased year over year. Just seems pretty obvious that keep maximizing him as a receiver. Yeah. I don't get a lot of people talking about how he had 92 receptions for just shy of 1,000 yards and eight receiving touchdowns last year. That's what got him to that.
Wouldn't he have been a wide receiver 1?
I'm going to safely assume so. Yeah. With 92 catches, 993 yards, and 8 touchdowns. He had 6 touchdowns the first 2 years in the NFL. Yeah, I mean, it's just granted on much limited reception volume. He's not catching 8 touchdowns again. It's not fucking happening. And he's never going to be a big rushing touchdowns guy. So
Danny Woodhead was RB3 one year.
Exactly. And was he again the next year?
No, sir.
So not to slam on a guy because I truly love Austin Eckler. You even more so than me. super impressed with him. Couldn't have been cheaper. Already more than returned, 10 times value at this point. I'm just scared, even in a redraft league for Eckler. And I can't argue with anyone else that you just said in the bus. This is going to be an interesting offense in 2020. Who is your sleeper?
It's just going to be so different after him not being there for so long. Sleeper, I went with a guy who you mentioned earlier as somebody you like, and you have completely talking about pressuring me on the Josh Kelly thing. I am officially on team Joe Reed, and it is entirely your fault. He is falling. He's the wide receiver 3 on this team. There's nobody even in the conversation. So they're probably going to run a lot of 2 wide receiver sets. They like what Henry can do at tight end. They're probably going to, Eckler out of the backfield is going to, just talked about, get used heavily. Last year, do you know who their number 3 wide receiver was?
I'm going to go with Travis Benjamin.
No, sir. Dontrell Inman. Do you know what his stat line was?
300 yards and 2 touchdowns.
8 catches for 132 yards. He was the 3rd most targeted wide receiver.
Had high hopes for him.
That's so fucking staggeringly bad. I couldn't even believe it. So, Keenan Allen has had his struggles with injuries. Mike Williams has had struggles with injuries going back to college. If either one of them misses time, which is likely, Joe Reed is a starting NFL wide receiver. And there's not many of the rookies from this class that could say that. A lot of guys are in the competition. Reed's literally injury away from being on the field for a significant amount of snaps. So I don't see how it can't be Joe Reed. Currently going 266 overall, wide receiver 107, and he's going to be better than Dontrell Inman's 8 for 132. So just by sheer opportunity alone, I don't see how it's not him.
Yeah, the correct answer was Joe Reed. There's nowhere else to go here. I said when he got drafted, they told him he was already their wide receiver 3. Like, welcome to the Chargers. You are a starting wide receiver in 3 wide sets. If Allen gets inside and stays in that slot where he thrives, and it'll probably be to the benefit of Herbert early on, Joe Reed's going to start outside in 3 wide receiver sets. 6'1", 224. Get the notice, kid. Special teams demon. I love that college value. You just want the ball in his hands. 4.4, 740, 94th percentile speed, 75th percentile burst from a grown man. 6'1", 224. We're talking like Laviska Shenault-ish type opportunity here for a guy. And you're getting him in, you got him, because most rookie drafts are done, in the 4th round of rookie drafts. I'm not gonna preach in redraft value here, because I think it will take an injury for him to pop this year. But in the dynasty world, no one is still talking about Joe Reed. No one. If I Google Joe Reed, it would just still be his draft profile would be the only thing that comes up. The guy is getting no pub. And you've mentioned this before with the Ravens in a previous episode. He'll be active right out of the gate because of special teams value. He's on punt return and punt coverage all day, every day. Injury happens. Joe Reed, get out there, son. Make your mama proud. And he will. The kid just find ways to get him the ball. I am giddy about Joe Reed. And the irony of it all, and we've all been here before, is I did not know who Joe Reed was 3 months ago. Whenever we're going to go back to this. When it all started, I started doing my research, before even the NFL draft occurred. And his names kept popping up real low. I'm like, let me go look at this guy. And I watched the tape and I read some reviews on him. And the love grew quick. I want all the Joe Reed.
Well, talking about him being cheap and can be had very late in your drafts, and that one monster 96 team I have, 6 copies of each player, I got Reed with the 514th pick at 6.34.
Congratulations.
And what a steal. I loved him there. I mean, I loved him earlier, but I really love him there. But you're absolutely correct and totally unscientific. No proof to this at all. Does it sound like a really good NFL wide receiver?
Yeah, Joe Reed. I go Andre Reed. It's just
there you go.
He's a no nonsense guy. Who's that? That's Joe Reed. Fuck, he means business.
There you go.
Yeah, it's not Joey Reed.
Joe Horn.
These assholes like Scotty Miller that doesn't know how to be an adult. Take the Y off his name. Yeah. Joe Reed, motherfucker. Yeah,
No,
I'm here to play football.
I'm assuming that's your sleeper as well, from
God.
what I've heard here.
I think about him every night before I go to sleep. So,
Attaboy.
I think it would qualify.
So, Going on to the bold predictions, I'll keep this right in line with my bust. The combination of Tyrod Taylor and Justin Herbert, total points, is outside of QB 24.
How about it? Yeah, I think it's going to be ugly for Herbert, and I don't know how much of a leash Tyrod gets to use his wheels to kind of rack up those points. So, yeah, I can't disagree with you. I envision a potential change into the guard at wide receiver, and I know you hate Mike Williams, but I like Mike Williams. And Mike Williams has a ton of upside. I don't know that he'll realize it as much with Tyrod Taylor as he will with Justin Herbert. But at the end of the day, somehow, some way, Mike Williams is going to put up 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns this year.
I hate it. All right, moving on to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Didn't think you won it.
Spent a long time on the Chargers. To be fair,
we're going to spend a lot of time.
The Joe Reed time. But going back to the Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl champions, did nothing. Took Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the end of the first, and that was it. Nothing in free agency, nothing else in the draft on the offensive side. Took a tackle in round 3, but who cares about that? So that's it, Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, that's about the gist of it. You know, they UDFA, I believe, a wide receiver whose name's escaping me, but people just want to throw a dart at him because he landed with the Chiefs. But you're right. I mean, Brett Veach called Pat Mahomes or texted him and said, "Who do you want?" He said Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They hit the select button down in the virtual draft room, and boom, Twitter exploded. Yeah. Twitter exploded. I mean, at the end of the day. So yeah, that's about the gist of it. It's run it back, add in another multidimensional back.
So my breakout, keeping it with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't see how looking back at what Kareem Hunt did as a rookie, looking at the way they've used all of the guys named Williams in the backfield. I don't see how if he's going to average 16 points a game. I think that's what he does, which puts him in top 5 overall for fantasy. We've talked about it repeatedly. The Andy Reid system produces fantasy running backs. So, and he was, you mentioned, handpicked. He's a very good pass catcher. He is going to be a top 5 fantasy running back.
Wow, you went bold on the breakout. So you're putting new spins.
I don't think it's bold.
You're putting spins on all these categories to fit your narratives. But I'm there with you. I mean, I have CEH as the breakout because, I mean, please tell me someone else who can actually break out in this offense. Tyreek Hill already broke out. Jason Kelce already broke out. Yeah. Patrick Mahomes already broke out. You know, I love Mecole Hardman, but, there's only enough footballs to go around. They put first-round capital on Clyde Edwards-Helaire's name. Clearly, everyone was bought in. Mahomes said it, and Veach and Andy Reid both said, yep, we agree. Like, this is who we want. We need to add this to the offense. As much as I love Damian Williams, and I do love Damian Williams, he's just not meant to be a bell cow back. He gets hurt when he gets the load, like in short bursts. Like, he was amazing in the playoffs. Should have been the Super Bowl MVP, in my humble opinion. But it was never going to happen when Patrick Mahomes wins the Super Bowl, so we'll just stop acting like that award is anyone but the quarterback unless the quarterback sucks dick and a defensive player gets a touchdown. It's usually going to be the quarterback getting the MVP award. But I'm with you. You said Mike Clay hasn't projected at running back 17, and I just wrote that's his floor in PPR. His worst case, he's a mid-range RB2 his rookie season. I'm not sharing the same he's top 5 right out of the gate sentiment, but rookies do get there. I do believe he'll be a running back 1. At the end of the day. I think his floor is running back 17. I think he's probably more in the 10 to 12 range.
Yeah, I don't even see how he gets to 17.
Yeah, as I said, I mean, if Damian Williams is more of a thorn than anyone wants him to be at the end of the day, it's still going to end up being Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And if you're outside of Pete Carroll, teams do not keep first-round running backs on the bench unless they just prove that they are not equipped for the NFL. And everyone from Joe Burrow down has said this dude is like prototype being compared to Brian Westbrook. Burrow said pretty much said he was the best player on their team last year. A team that has fucking Jamar Chase on it, who had Justin Jefferson, who got drafted before him. Joe Burrow was 1 overall. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the guy that Joe Burrow decides he wants to shout out when they ask, who's the best player you ever played with. There's nothing going against this kid right now. I mean, the current is just 100% downhill for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And Damian Williams is just going to get monsooned by it once they actually are able to practice together.
And he doesn't take any guff. Don't try to rob him either.
He will put you down.
Turn out poorly for you.
He will put you down, sir. Yeah. So I'm with you. And maybe breakout is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Again, not as bold as you, but I think it will be a running back 1 this year.
So moving on to the busts. You actually said his name and the phrase I was going to use. There's only enough balls to go around. I don't see how your boy Hardman can live up to his ADP. 89th overall, wide receiver 45. They've got Kelsey there. They've got Hill. They've got Watkins. Now they've got Edwards-Helaire. They're going to use Williams a little bit, at least early in the year. I just think Hardman, he's just he's on a dream team, but he's in a bad spot there. So for me, I'm just not thinking Hardman can perform unless there's injuries ahead of him.
I will defend him in a later segment, but I'm going to go with Sammy Watkins for largely everything you just said about Mecole Hardman, but I believe that Mecole Hardman passes Sammy Watkins as the wide receiver 2 on this team this year. And hopefully you sold Sammy Watkins after week 1 last year, because it was literally just a fucking epic downhill slide after that. And then he had a great playoff series, and he mentioned potentially taking a year off, and I kind of hoped he did, so he just get the fuck out of Hardman's way at this point in time. No offense, Sammy. I was probably one of the first to love you and one of the last to hate you, but just a frustrating player to own overall. And I can't see it with Watkins. He's being drafted around the same position as Mecole Hardman, and I am, without hesitation, taking Hardman over him in any redraft league. So begrudgingly, my bust is Sammy Watkins.
Moving on to the sleeper in a seamless transition, I'm going Sammy Watkins. So we seem to have them flip-flop what we're expecting from them this year. I just think, what is he, wide receiver 64 right now? He is currently the team's wide receiver 2. If he can do anything like we've seen from him in small flashes, he can outperform that. He was wide receiver 52 last year, so not a huge bump up, but I think he outperforms at ADP. I hate him. I've always hated him. Do I think he can outperform wide receiver 64? Yes. We'd mentioned this with other teams. Some of these teams, you know who everyone is and who's good for fantasy and who isn't. There's not many sleepers. Nobody in this Chiefs offense is flying under the radar. So just by default, I picked Sammy.
Yeah, so you're right, flip-flopping, because my sleeper is Mecole Hardman, which I don't know that I should be able to get away with it since he is going 11 spots before Sammy Watkins in redraft ADP, but still as wide receiver 44 overall in the 10th round. So I'm going to say 10th round qualifies as sleeper status, because to me, they are going to continue to find ways to use this kid. He's just another year into this offense. He doesn't need volume to be productive, and that is that is a staple in this offense, is explosive plays. And let's not forget that Patrick Mahomes threw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns only a year ago. Now, I'm not going to call it 5 to 50 touchdowns again, but there is no reason why Patrick Mahomes can't and won't throw for 5,000 yards this upcoming season if healthy. And
I mean, even
there's a little bit more to go around than on your average team.
4,545, like it's not.
Yeah.
That's a downgrade.
Yeah.
So the short-term answer for both of us is the sleeper is the Chiefs wide receiver 2. The bust is the Chiefs wide receiver 3. Just depends who we think that's going to be.
Well said.
What is your bold prediction for the Chiefs, or prediction?
My prediction is that Mecole Hardman will turn in an 800-yard, 8-touchdown season.
Nice. I actually, sticking to my brand, I went with a big downer here. Kelsey. He's 31 years old. He's missed one game in the last 6 years. Tight ends get notoriously banged up. It's what they do. I think he finally gets that injury that has avoided him this far, and I think he finishes outside the top 12 at tight end. So for the guy who is everyone's tight end 1, I think he is going to crush a lot of fantasy teams this year.
Yeah, I'm never going to predict for injuries. Doesn't surprise me that you decide to slap Kelsey with the inevitable injury tag at 31 years old. But, people should be looking to get out from under Kelsey at this point in time. I mean, just age, production has been at a peak it cannot sustain. I mean, even tied to Patrick Mahomes as these other guys kind of grow with him, and then inevitable contract demands that are likely coming down the pike, not only from Kelsey, but then Mahomes, who's going to probably get $50 million a year by the time it's all said and done. Players like Kelsey end up being concessions that you have to make to that salary cap, because you can't afford to have the premium players at every position because you can't pay them like that. So in Dynasty, I'm there with you. I think he's still, a top 3 tight end, and hoping for health out of Kelsey for one more year. But if he gets hurt, sure, he won't be a tight end 1. You got me there.
Who's left now? Oh, yes, the team in my backyard, the Oakland Las Vegas Raiders.
Yes, the Raiders. They went and reached for Henry Ruggs to get that speed element back on the Raiders that Al Davis, rest his soul, so coveted. Then they went and got our boy, the correct wide receiver pick at a much better value. Brian Edwards a little later. Went and took Swiss Army knife Lynn Bowden Jr. from Kentucky, who was listed as a wide receiver on NFL.com on the draft site, listed as a running back on Raiders.com's website. I believe he will be a running back by designation. He's number 33 on their team, so that just about buttons that up. But interested to see how and when he will be utilized in that offense. But that's about what they did. They did go and get Nelson Aguilar as a free agent, but I think that was in case they didn't hit on the receivers that they ended up getting. Aguilar is going to be lost in the sauce when it's all said and done on this team. And no one else of significance went to the Raiders. What's his name? DeAndre Washington, who was the backup running back to Josh Jacobs last year, left and went to the aforementioned Chiefs. He might end up costing Darrell Williams or Darwin Thompson a job because I think DeAndre Washington's going to stick on the Chiefs for a year. But what are your thoughts about the Raiders?
Yeah, you can. I mean, Ruggs to the Raiders was one of the easiest crystal ball things anyone's ever had. So they obviously want to get some weapons in there, even though I didn't hate what they already had. Do I think huge? Ruggs brings the speed. I obviously love Brian Edwards. Bowden is going to pivot to the backfield. Are they much better than they were last year? Like, you know what I mean? They didn't get any, but they didn't get a Judy or somebody that's going to come in there and can really change it. The speed element, I get, opens up things for other people. But, like, do you think that makes their wide receiver core much better than it was?
I do. I'm starting to come around on Ruggs a little bit, and his opportunity is going to be tremendous. Tyrell Williams was a failed project. He came out of the gates pretty hot, and then I think he picked up an injury and waned, and he's not meant to be, like the alpha in any wide receiver room. So I do like the addition of Ruggs. We were talking about speed before and how everyone's trying to be the Chiefs. Well, this is another byproduct. The Raiders know they need to score points to keep up with the Chiefs and probably even to keep up with the Chargers and the Broncos in their own division, to be totally honest with you. So they went and added a speed element. They doubled down on Brian Edwards, who I just think is about as polished of a wide receiver as you're going to get coming into the NFL. And they needed these upgrades because they were trusting Tyrell Williams and Hunter Renfrow to be their primary wide receivers last year. And that should not be the case on an NFL team.
I don't disagree, but you threw his name out there, so I'm going to go to my breakout. For me, it's Hunter Renfrow. He's one of these, guys that kind of builds this little career like Welker or Edelman. Like we joke about it all the time, but he's a bit of a Patriots guy. He's got reliable hands despite their small size. But last year he had 49 receptions on 71 targets, 605 yards, 4 touchdowns. Could he possibly bump that up just a hair? 57 receptions, 700 yards, and 6. I think that's well within the realm of possibility. He would be 163 fantasy points. His ADP is wide receiver 76 right now. If he could put up those numbers, that's a solid wide receiver 3 for fantasy. So he could be a weekly flex play in PPR leagues. It wouldn't shock me at all. So for me, I'm looking forward to seeing Renfrow do a little more in year 2.
Yeah, I don't hate Renfrow, but I think he's already done more in the NFL than I expected him to do. So kudos to tighty hands Hunter Renfrow for overcoming the odds. My breakout, I'm probably going to catch shit for this because he already broke out, but he's going to continue to break out.
Oh no,
is Josh Jacobs.
Of course.
They got rid of DeAndre Watson, like I said. They re-signed Jalen Richard, and then they bring in Lynn Bowden. And neither of those two guys are stealing carries away from Josh Jacobs. They will all continue to steal catches away from him because clearly the Raiders do not want to use Josh Jacobs to the best of his ability, and that's as a receiver. But Josh Jacobs in 13 games had 1,300 yards and 7 touchdowns last season. He missed 3 games due to injury. He was playing through a shoulder injury. God bless him. I'm calling for 1,700 all-purpose yards and 10-plus touchdowns from Josh Jacobs in 2020. He is going to be an RB1. I think he was borderline last year, but he's currently going as RB8 in PPR on Fantasy Football Calculator, and that numbers are skewed a little bit because I'll be honest with you. Looking at it, running back number 9 is Zeke Elliott. Don't understand how they're doing this math here, but Zeke Elliott was drafted 245 times to Josh Jacobs 97, but his average draft position is 10 to Zeke's 11.6, so that will correct itself, but Jacobs will be around that RB8 when it's all said and done.
In Dynasty, he is running back 10, going on average roughly 15th overall.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, he proved me right last year when I said he was bar none the running back 1 in his class, and that he deserved all the hype and being the 101 in the draft class. And you're gonna double down this year in your backyard.
Let us tone down the excitement and move on to the busts here.
Oh no, the excitement!
I'm going, huh?
The excitement's going up.
Yeah, for us, I'm going Ruggs. I have to go Ruggs. I've been anti-Ruggs from the beginning. I'm still anti-Ruggs. Do I think he'll be good for the NFL? Sure. Do I think he's going to be good for fantasy? Outside of best ball, absolutely not. I just don't like these types of players, these one-dimensional speed guys. You know, we've talked about it in DMs and other people have mentioned it on Twitter. He is one-dimensional, and he's never broken out. He couldn't get work while he was in college. What makes you think with better players around him, facing better defenses, he's going to suddenly take the next step as a pro? So for me, Ruggs is a massive red flag. I'm going to have 0 shares of him his entire career. So I am out on Henry Ruggs. He is a huge bust for me.
Didn't see that train coming at all. I'm going to abstain from Henry Ruggs at this point in time. Like I said earlier, I'm actually coming around on Henry Ruggs a little bit. I don't know. I think I own him one place, and it's because like it was to the point where I was like, I might as well have a share of Henry Ruggs. I probably took your strategy where it was like, he's there in the early second. I had to pick him. Let me take a Henry Ruggs. I don't think he's due for any type of breakout this year. He's not one of those type of rookies. But I think a lot of us are pigeonholing his speed. But I don't know that he's one-dimensional. I'm starting to see the forest through the trees a little bit on Henry Ruggs. He's still not in my top 5 in rookie wide receivers. So I'm only going to go so far with him. But mine is begrudgingly going to be Darren Waller. I like Darren Waller.
Well,
Darren Waller, great story. Overcome adversity, found his way, got a new contract. But he also had 117 targets last year.
Yeah.
And he caught 77% of them for his 1,100 yards. Unfortunately, only had 3 touchdowns. But we just talked about the influx of talent coming to these Raiders and the fact he was fighting the likes of Tyrell Williams and Hunter Renfrow for targets last year. He ain't seeing 117 targets in this offense this year, in my humble opinion. He's going to probably drop back down into that 90 to 100 target range, and he'll have to get, a kind of touchdown regression situation occurring. But he was used kind of like as a field stretching tight end. I don't know how much he was even used in a red zone. I'll fully admit I have not looked into that, but would think a 6'6" freak like Darren Waller would get some more red zone attention, from this team, given what they had in this offense. And he just didn't. Unfortunately, it's a byproduct of subtraction by addition for Darren Waller. And he's currently being taken as, I believe, tight end 5 in redraft in the 6th round. No, thank you. Not with just the tight ends that are coming up, the guys that we've referenced just in these last couple episodes. I'm not using a 6th round pick on Darren Waller. You're telling me I can use an 8th round pick on Hunter Henry. I can use a 10th round pick on Noah Fant. I can use a 14th round pick on Jonnu Smith. I'm not going to own any Darren Waller in redraft. And now might be the time to sell him, in my opinion, in Dynasty, because it was the perfect storm for him. The Raiders are a great scheme for tight end, but again, there was nothing stopping him from being their leading target getter, and they've just put a lot more talent around him.
It's hurtful, but I don't disagree, but I think the touchdowns catch up to him, and that will compensate for any missing volume. I mean, you mentioned the scheme. The Gruden-Roman scheme has featured tight ends prominently, so I agree his volume may dip a bit, and they brought in, the corpse of Jason Witten, but and I love Foster Moreau behind him.
Why did they bring in Jason Witten? Is it literally just to tie him to the line and be an extra blocker? I mean, who's he scaring? I mean, they're still going to leave Darren Waller outside, but then they also have Foster Moreau, who we both like. It's just don't like that he landed there. He's going to steal like 2 or 3 touches. Jason Witten's going to catch get a couple goal line touches.
Absolutely.
You're going to go, that Darren Waller was wide open.
As a Foster Moreau guy, who is more affected by that than him? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Second year tight end. He's gone for this year.
Yep. The island of Foster Moreau is going to be uninhabited in 2020.
And I used him last year. He was usable in spot starts. He's not going to be for me this year.
With you.
Moving on to sleepers, I went with Terrell Williams. We're talking about this wide receiver core. He is wide receiver 100 right now, 245 overall. He was number 3 in targets on this team, number 2 in yards, and led the team in touchdowns. So he's still going to be a featured part of this game. By default, he is their wide receiver 1 right now. So how the hell he is wide receiver 100 is ridiculous. I just think he's a screaming value where he's going.
Yeah, I mean, the irony of Tyrell Williams, and it's just, listen to this real quick. His last year with the Chargers in 2018, he played in all 16 games. He had 65 targets, 41 catches, 653 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Last year in Oakland, he only played in 14 games. He had 64 catches, 42 receptions, 651 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Literally, it almost looked like a cut and paste for this guy year over year. He just, it's crazy. Sure, more productive on a per game basis because he played 2 less games, but that 1,000-yard, 7-touchdown season of 2016 where he got 119 targets seems like light years ago because 3 subsequent seasons, 69 targets, 65 targets, 64 targets. Tyrell Williams is going in the wrong direction, and now they just replaced him pretty much with Henry Ruggs.
But looking at those last, even go back the last 2 years, we'll say 700 and change, 600 change, 600 and change, 4, 5, 6 touchdowns, 245 overall. If he even just does what he's been doing, he's going to return a massive value. That, to me, that's just why he stuck out as a sleeper. He's going to be involved. It's not like, especially with this weird offseason where the rookies aren't even getting in there, there's no way Ruggs or Edwards replaces him in the lineup if they ever do until week 6, week 8. So especially to start the year, to me, he's going to blow by that ADP. I just can't understand why he's that low. Yeah,
and sleeper, I'm going to say, you mentioned him earlier, just with Hunter Renfrow, who's currently wide receiver 64 in the 14th round, end of the 14th round in redraft ADP. It just, in PPR leagues, I mean, he just has a safe floor, so to be your wide receiver 6 in your redraft, you can do far worse than Hunter Renfrow, who will do you some favors in bye weeks when you can just slap him into that flex spot and he's going to get you those 5 catches for 50 yards. And if he gets a touchdown, I mean,
even if it's 3 for 30 on a bye week, I'll take 6 points.
Yeah, he's not going to kill you, and he's free. I mean, you don't even have to reach for him. Just pencil him in as your wide receiver 6-ish right now. And look for him around the 14th round, and he'll be sitting there in your draft queue. So I'm not as high on the breakout potential of Hunter Renfrow, but I think he has pretty much a safe floor and a defined role in this offense that no one is taking from him in 2020.
For my prediction, you had already mentioned his name out there. I know you love him. Josh Jacobs, kind of an interesting split, was RB14 in standard leagues last year, fell to RB21 in PPR. Like you said, the Raiders just aren't using him. They brought in Devontae Booker, who is a decent blocker and an all right pass catcher. Lynn Bowden, obviously, with the draft, and Jalen Richards got his job as the pass-catching guy. But I think they get Jacobs more involved, and much like you said, I have him as a penciled-in RB1 this year, even in PPR.
Yeah, I like it. And, I mentioned where I thought he was going to end up already, with the 1,710. I think the 10 is a floor, honestly, for his touchdowns. Assuming health, he's going to be their leading touchdown producer. But my prediction, and I might go a little bold here, let's close out the AFC and finish off the Raiders, is that Marcus Mariota starts more games in 2020 than
I like it. And more importantly, I need it. In some leagues, I need that.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing where they're at. I mean, you don't bring Mariota and you give him that incentive-laden contract. Supposedly, he was the QB1 on Mayock's board. Like, Mayock was super huge on him.
That's right.
In that draft coming out, they prioritized going and getting him and upgrading that backup receiver, that backup quarterback position from Nate Peterman and Mike Glennon. Like, there was no competition for Derek Carr in that room his entire career with the Raiders. And I'm not a Carr hater. I just don't think he's good. I think he's just average. I mean, there can only be so many greats, and he's just not one of them. He's not elevating this team. Like, everyone throws out like plus metrics for him, and that's all well and good. I haven't seen him make the team better. I haven't seen progress. The offense, and granted, I just rung off a murderer's row of shitty pass catchers for him to utilize last year, where the best by far was Darren Waller, who, probably should have never happened in the NFL, but he did. And they've made these upgrades. So if much like Drew Lock, who we discussed earlier, they're taking all the excuses away from Derek Carr at this point in time. And he is very, 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 very cuttable now and definitely next year on the contract that they gave him. And why wouldn't they get out from under that if he's not the guy? He's at risk big time as the starting quarterback is concerned. And Mariota is probably one of the best, if not the best, backup quarterbacks who could be a starter this year.
Want a fun Mariota fact to close it out, why they may have brought him in?
Sure do.
Hawaii native, Las Vegas is known as the ninth island because it has the most Hawaiians anywhere outside of Hawaii. Bringing in some ticket sales.
Listen, about as close a flight as you can get to, right? So let's just play into those biases. How far is Oregon from Vegas as well? I mean, he's still
2 hours to Portland if you fly, I think.
Chosen son of the great Northwest. So yeah, I'm here for Mariota. I want him to get another chance, and never want it to be at anyone's expense. But looks like the table's being set for a second act for Marcus Mariota in Las Vegas.
In a good spot for it. But that should wrap up our AFC West divisional breakdown. Went a little long on the Chargers, but I don't think we can help ourselves. We do it every year.
We're doing our best, folks.
We really want the Chargers to be good. It's disgusting. And they let us down repeatedly.
So hard.
But yeah, we got to talk about the Super Bowl champs. Some Drew Lock love with things going on in Denver. Relocating Vegas Raiders. It be what it be, but that should do it for the AFC West. We are the Fantasy 40. I'm John DeBari. My co-host, Matt Walker. Andrew Burke is out there somewhere chasing down Sasquatches, and we are out.
So he's chasing himself is what you're telling me. FF Bigfoot.
Ow! As a fence-riding coward.
I just picture you in chaps with a cowboy hat and a little pop gun, just riding the Charger fence. Joe Reed, fucker.
You can be an asshole if you know what you're doing. You can be stupid if you're nice. You can't be a stupid asshole.
I love
and he is a stupid and he is a stupid asshole.